Today, we are going to be reading from Being Lutheran Today, a layperson's guide to our history, belief, and practice. With most books, the best place to start is with the beginning. Not so with the Bible. This is the last place you want to begin. Remember, when reading the Bible, begin with Christ. Do not read it critically, but imaginatively and devotionally. In doing so, you will know God, and God will find you. Your clergy does not want you to read certain parts of the Bible because your so-called holy book, well, it's filled with stuff that will turn you into an atheist. Religion does not encourage you to be or think for yourself, but encourages you to be a pawn in somebody else's power grab. The overwhelming majority of you theists right now know that you have never read your Bible. You just listen to what they preach, do what they say, give them your money, and don't question anything. But questioning them challenges their hold over you, while imagining God keeps you right where they want you. If you disagree, we would love to hear why. And while you're at it, bring your best reason for believing in whatever it is that you believe. So pick up your phone and give us a call because the show is starting right now. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is the Talk Heathen, the atheist community of Austin's premier show, I will say, and I am Jimmy Jr. Today is Sunday, January 14th. I am with the one and only mad scientist himself, Kelley Laughlin. Kelley, how the heck are you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Yeah. It's good to be with you. Good to be with you.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. I love.
I can't believe it. I'm actually on the screen and there's nothing wrong going on.
What do you like, the walking Murphy's Law or something like that?
Yeah, well, I'm usually the backup host, so if I'm on screen, there's usually something going on wrong, right?
Yeah. Well, not here, not today. We're not going to have any of that. Okay. So we're here to have a great show, man. I'm so happy to work with you. I love working with you, dude. We've done some great work together on the nonprofits. And anytime I get the opportunity. So we actually booked this show working together like 3 months ago. We had to try and find a way that we were both available, and it just so happened it was in January. So happy the time has finally come.
I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Yeah, cool, man. So we're back. I mean, we're back from a holiday break. And did you have any fun experiences? Were your holidays good?
I did not. I don't do much. I live like 2 states away from most of my family. My son and I live together, and we put up a Festivus poll. We do every year, but that's about all we did for the holidays. We did have Christmas Day off, and he has a rock band and invited his band members over Sunday night. So they came over, we played cards, had a couple of drinks, and just had fun. So
sweet, man. I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah, we had a good night.
Yeah, I had a really wonderful Christmas. I had some family in town. Of course, I live back in New York, as you can see with this real window right here behind me. But I was back with my family, and I got to just make some memories and have a really good time. I had some conversations about religion with some family members, one in particular, which was kind of awkward. We never speak about religion. It's kind of just one of those things we don't talk about because I just think my family probably knows where I stand, and I know that they're believers, if you will. Although I would argue that most people, like I said in the intro, probably don't even really know what it is that they believe. So I would kind of like to have those conversations more, but I really just don't. So I kind of just want to keep the peace. But I did have one family member. I tried to change the subject a couple times. They kept bringing it up. I said, okay, I guess we're gonna talk about this. And I was so shocked because it was the most basic stuff that people come with, and I thought, all right, this person, they have purposely been silent on this matter. They must, they've been religious for a long time, and they must want to just kind of keep their thoughts to themselves, keep the peace as well. Right. And I figured, if I ever did talk to this person about it, it was probably going to be a very profound conversation. I might have a whole lot of respect, and not to say I don't respect them, but man, this was elementary stuff, like, for example, well, it says it in the Bible. Okay. And that's of course the easiest one to debunk, right? Because you just turn around and say, okay, well, if it says it in your holy book, and then we have this other holy book that says this other thing, well, why not believe in that holy book? Why not believe in the Quran? And the response was, well, because the Quran says horrible things. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm so glad that you mentioned that. So let's talk about the Bible, how it advocates for genocide and
there's
rape and
plenty of
slavery. It's a,
plenty,
oh my
plenty of
goodness.
horrible things.
And then the person's response was, yeah, but why? But why would God? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There is never an exception for genocide. I don't care how long you've believed in it.
Well, the God of the Old Testament did it for the same reasons that Allah of the Quran did it, right?
And they're the same God. I mean,
6 of 1.
Seriously, like people, I don't think know that either. I don't think that they're aware that these religions, so many religions, the ones that you say are fake, but yours is real, and this one's old and this one's new, et cetera, et cetera. They're all connected in some way. Reading the Hindu Vedas, right? The religious text, the creation story in the Vedas is strikingly similar to that of Genesis. And there are some theories that these stories kind of branch off together. Now, I've only got that from one source, but I just mean to posit that because, like, this is not uncommon. These religions are kind of birthed in the same kind of mindset. It's like I said, really a power relationship with society and or from the powers that be in society who kind of want to order it. Anyway, I'm digressing a little bit, but of course I can get into this stuff. I mean, that's why we're here, isn't it?
I can kind of sort of see how some of the rules of religion would be useful in a primitive society. I think we've gone past that point today. But and I think that's why you see kind of like these same stories and these same morals being taught, because they're good for everyone. It's not just for people who follow this one religion. So when you're talking about a primitive society, it's good to lay down some groundwork, some rules that we still do. I mean, we still have laws on there, but we have even more today than they had back then. So, but we do have to have rules and laws to keep our society moving. And to keep it moving well, is right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it speaks to the way that our society functions now. I mean, we can look to religion as kind of being useful in a time where we didn't have answers, we didn't have methods to come up with those answers, and we really didn't have the kind of I would say education that we have now. Not to say that we're any smarter than humans used to be, but we're a little bit more organized, right? We can prioritize a little bit better. We have the ability to create cultures that are good for everybody and not just good for the central authority of that culture, right? So, for example, I mean, we operate in a society that, we are very diverse. I mean, one of the great hallmarks of being an American is the diversity, right? A lot of people like to talk about, well, America is a Christian country, et cetera. I don't see it that way. I see us as a very diverse country, but regardless of what it is that we believe, what we look like, how we identify, we are all administratively bound by the Constitution that gives us equal rights. And, that there is something to be said about that. I mean, that is the way our society operates now. And, I think the founders of our republic recognized that, we really just don't have a place for religion anymore. And so that's why, we don't really need to sponsor one. We can get by without it. We can have an administrative and a legal culture that sees to the benefit for all people. And I really feel very, very strongly about that. And that is one of the reasons why I'm here. I mean, the separation of church and state, separation of religion and government, incredibly important. I don't know. How am I doing so far, Kelley? I mean, I know
doing great to me. That's why I've been sitting here quiet. I've been listening to you talking and you're making sense. So
yeah, but
there's no reason to stop. Yeah.
Well, our phone lines are buzzing right now. We got some people waiting, but I kind of wanted to hear, what your take on that was, because I'm almost done with my little my little rant here, but I got another point.
Well, I'm in total agreement with you. And another reason that I'm here is, like, I want to try to dispel a lot of the bad ideas that people have, not just on religion, but also with science as well. It seems, and you get a lot of that from religious people, where they seem to think science is some big conspiracy theory to destroy their religion. And that's not what science is at all. Most scientists I know don't even care about religious views at all, and they don't care about trying to destroy them as well. And I've known plenty of scientists throughout my days of being one that not only believe in science, but are also Christians as well. A good friend of mine, unfortunately, just passed away, but he always felt that evolution was just one more tool in God's toolbox, just like any other tool. So I don't see any problem with trying to reconcile scientific and religious views if you're open to that. And that's one of the things that I want to do, is show that you can have both these views. You don't have to think science is a big conspiracy theory, or that science is completely wrong, or that science is in opposition to religion, because none of that stuff is really true. So,
and we can have these conversations and be different and think differently and not hate each other, right?
Yeah,
I think that is
totally.
the most important thing. I think that there are a lot of people right now that are listening that want to call and want to give us their viewpoint, and they're afraid to call because they're not sure how the conversation is going to go. But I can assure you that we want to hear from a very respectful standpoint what you have to say. 512-991-9242. Get those calls in. I think it's funny that you're a geologist, and I had an experience one time in my historical geology class. I was a freshman in college, and the professor on day one said, I have to give my disclaimer. Although we are going to talk about the origins and the history of the earth, there is plenty of room in our fields of study for all the wonderful world religions out there. And I thought that was very profound and, interesting. But nonetheless, I kind of went off in the direction that I did. And here we are. So, we are Talk Heathen. And we are a product of the atheist community of Austin. Like I mentioned earlier, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. Talk Heathen is a live call-in show. We have open lines, so get your calls in, 512-991-9242, or from your computer at tiny.cc/call-th. Go ahead. You had something, Kelley?
I'm about to say, we promise to be nice if you call in. So
yeah, for sure. We are going to give you a reason to keep watching our show and to keep calling back, right? But before we get to some callers, there's a couple things that I want to do, something that we not only have to do, but really kind of take a lot of pride in doing. This is a lot of fun. We're going to do our question of the week, Talk Heathen to me, okay? And we're going to get into this question that we asked last week. We asked, God made blank a sin just to be petty. And we asked our callers or our members, not our callers, but our viewers, to put their answer in our chat. And we have the top three. So the first one, number 3, goes to Terrell Kirkman. Okay, I thought that was going to be a lot harder to say, but it's just first and last name. Question of the week: God made consuming knowledge a sin just to be petty and to control us and keep us dependent on him. Well, I can't argue there. I don't know. It's like kind of the first story in the Bible, right? Being knowledgeable is not a good thing from the very get-go. What do you say, Kelley?
I think it's actually pretty right on, that statement. I was hoping for something funnier, but that's the truth. So
I mean, humor usually wins the day here, doesn't it? But you kind of can't turn your back on that sentiment there, because it's all over. It's all over. Even the intro that I just read, I mean, this guide on being a Lutheran, which I was raised, clearly states, don't ever think critically. I mean, you don't want the knowledge, right? You just use your imagination. And so that's a problem. We have the number 2 question of the week answer, and that is from Mr. Perfect Cell. Whew. God made butt stuff a sin just to be petty.
See, there's the giggle I was looking for.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, why is religion so obsessed with sexuality? I don't get it. Like, why does God, I mean, God theoretically, right? All-knowing being, can do anything, knows all, cares about you touching other people's butts, right? I mean, I don't see how that's
obsessed with it even.
Yeah, obsessed with it. I mean, to the point that you should be burned at the stake. You can own slaves, okay, but you by all means, don't touch a butthole. I don't get it, man. I don't know. Maybe somebody can explain that to me. Maybe somebody will call in and say, hey, look, here's what he really meant by that. I'm sure I'm misreading it. I've got to be, right? Okay. The number one from our friend Chuck Gatos. God made picking up sticks on the Sabbath a sin just to be petty. What do you do if you like to play pool and Saturday is your only day off? Well, I don't know. Picking up sticks. I got to say, Chuck Gatos, I don't get that. Kelley, can you clarify that? Because I'm not sure what that means.
I think that was one of the things that you weren't supposed to do on the Sabbath, because you weren't supposed to do any work at all.
Oh, right.
And going around and picking up firewood would have been doing work, so you weren't allowed to do that.
Okay.
And a stick is a stick, so I mean,
yeah.
Or maybe, God is omniscient, so maybe he was seeing into the future, and he, pool halls are dens of inequity. So he was probably already just making an action against the future of pool halls anyway.
Well, I have a question though. If it's the Sabbath and you're really cold, are you allowed to go get firewood? I mean, that is technically that working. What if you're like not getting paid for it and it's just for your own benefit?
Well, if you're a modern day Christian, you can just pick and choose what parts of the Bible you want to pay attention to anyway, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, there's always the opportunity to cherry pick. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would hate to be not a modern day, kind of a traditional Christian in the winter. So good thing I didn't have to come across that. But yeah, that is going to do it for last week's question of the week. For the prompt for this week, why did Jimmy Jr. make this face? And we are going to blast a photo. Oh boy. Yeah. So why am I making that face? I mean, it's a caption contest. Put your caption in the comments to this video. Enter your best answer below, and we will reveal the top 3 answers next week. But first, Kelley, the honorary job of answering for this week, you get the first go. So what was going on in that photo?
That you are making that face because Jesus really did reveal himself to you.
Oh, I don't know that I like the kind of reveal you're talking about. If Jesus was the kind of person he was, maybe he was just revealing himself in the normal sense, I guess, if you can even say that. But yeah, I don't know. I might have had a runaway kind of reaction instead of just a disgusted kind of reaction. But yeah, that's it. So I am anxious to see what our audience comes up with for next week. Remember, in the comment section, give us your best answer and tune in next week when we reveal our top 3. So right now, before we get to calls, we are going to jump to the crew cam. Everybody, these are the folks that make this happen. Yes, look at those wonderful people. Ooh, a new crew cat. All right, crew dog. Excellent.
Those are the real heroes.
Yeah, right. And yeah, we've got the Free Thought Library. We are a real place, folks. I mean, we have a headquarters and everything. This is a legit operation. So we are here to kind of have the tough conversations and make friends, be happy, but also ask you to defend your faith and let you know if it doesn't make sense. So make sure you give us a call and tune in. So what I want to do right now, Kelley, before we get to our call, we have got a lot of people that we need to get back to. I mean, we've got people all over that have messages for us. They're in the chats. They're leaving us voicemails, and I want to start, responding and letting them know that we hear you. Okay, we hear you, and we want to talk to you. But first, what I want to do is get to this voicemail. This is going to be wonderful. So, crew, if you wouldn't mind, let's run this voicemail and let's see if we can, help this person.
I was wondering when you guys started working for Satan. I don't know why you're wasting your time. If you don't believe in God, then don't believe in God. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand, and hell on earth is coming. If you don't have a personal relationship with the Most High God and His Son, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, which I don't know what He looks like, but He lives in my heart, then you will burn in hell for eternity, okay? All you have to do is say, Most High God, if you can hear me, please show me that you can hear me. I want to see it, and please show me that you sent your Son, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, to die on the cross for my sin. Ask Him, don't believe this world. Ask them. Because when you die and go to hell, hot coals are going to be poured on your head. This is your warning, and your blood is not on my hands no more.
Whew, that was scary. Kelley, I got to get your reaction to that.
First off, if I'm working for Satan, where the hell's my paycheck?
Yeah.
Seriously, where the hell is my paycheck? And yeah, that was kind of scary. I didn't know that. I like that last sentence. Your blood is no longer on my hands. When was it ever on his hands?
I don't know when it was ever on his hands. I don't know when the Bible ever says that anybody is going to burn in hell, let alone have hot coals poured on them. Where do we come up with this stuff? Right? I mean, go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know. I was going to say, I really don't know where that comes from.
Yeah.
And it's really frightening to me that a lot of fundamental Christians go right to that place, that they think that the violence and the threats are the thing that's going to make people get attracted to their belief, because that really doesn't seem very attractive to me. That's like a big turnoff as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You'll see a lot of Christians and they use language that's sort of like the same language that an abusive domestic partner uses. And it's really kind of sad. And it's really, like I said, it's a turnoff. It's not bringing people into the pews into the pews.
Oh, no, it's certainly not. In fact, the pews are having a major crisis right now, and we're starting to see major shifts in the Catholic Church for sure, as far as their standing on, well, how are we going to treat members of the LGBTQ community? And that's not just in the Catholic Church too. There are Protestant organizations also that are, having their own shifts, their own mindset shifts, and allowing their congregation to expand to people who are traditionally turned away. But more on that call, like this whole working for Satan thing, like I need to clarify this, because this doesn't make sense to me, right? So if you don't believe in God, right? Well, first of all, let me backtrack for a second. God and Satan are mortal enemies, right? Like they are enemies, right?
Are they?
I mean, that I don't know. I mean, that's my question. So theoretically, right? God and Satan, enemies. Okay. But if you do something against God, or you don't believe in Jesus, you go to where God's enemy is, and then God's enemy tortures you for not abiding or obeying God, or abiding by his commands. Like, what is Satan God's friend or not? I mean, why is he doing God these favors? If I were Satan, I would say, hey, look, you can come to hell, right? We got booze. We got, you can do whatever you want. I mean, you'll see your friends there. I'm not against you. I'm not going to torture you and pour hot coal on you. I mean, if I were Satan, that would be my approach, right? But instead, God tells us, all right, I'm going to torture you if you don't believe me. But then Satan turns around and says, I am also going to do the same thing if you don't believe. I don't know. I'm hoping somebody can explain it to me. 512-991-9242. But with that, go ahead, Kelley. You got something on your mind?
I was going to say that I've been talking about a Bat Bible for the last few months, and we were going to give it away to a random Patreon member. And what the Bat Bible was is that I brought a Bible on the Bat Cruise this year in August, and I got all the hosts and the crew members to sign it, to autograph it. And I just did a drawing to find out who was going to win this, and I'm going to let everybody know at the end of the show. So stick around for the end of that, so you can find out who's the lucky winner of the Bat Bible.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. You did that. I got to sign that, and
you are on that. Yes, I
signed my real name, because obviously Jimmy Jr. is not my real name. I mean, technically I am Jimmy Jr. And if we want to really be technical, I should be Jimmy the Third, because my grandfather was also Jimmy. But I signed my real name on that. That's how nascent I was with the ACA. I hadn't adapted to my new identity. But anyway, just a name, not an identity. We are going to pivot to a call. Okay. So we have got Slavic. Okay. Well, Slavic, that's what I'm going to call you. And you're about to be with Kelley and Jimmy. Him from Colorado wants to discuss freelance awareness, which is somewhere between faith and natural law. Sounds very interesting. Slavic, you are on with Kelley and Jimmy. How can we help you today?
Hello. How are you guys?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
So, I am great. Thank you very much. My point is, when term of religion comes with all kinds of, preconceived rules, procedures, phrases, chants, or people have different ideas of what the frame of the mindset of the person who considers himself or herself to be, religious is. However, based on, natural law and morality, we, in my opinion, we don't need all those pesky rules and those regulations and, this is the color of the clothes, you got to wear on a certain day, this is the things, you got to say on first Wednesday of the spring and such and such and such. To me, all we need is to be aware what is the consequences of following or not following the natural law through the eyes of objective, like morality, because humans have forgotten that morality itself is not the subject to the human rules, and the Bible. Yes.
I was going to say, when you say objective morality, I wasn't sure what you meant by that. And if you're going to base your morality on the Bible, right, and say this is what our morality should be, and we all agree to that's what morality is, then yes, something can be subjective or objective to that standard. But we have to agree on that standard, and that standard in itself is a subjective standard. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I don't know that I'm not sure what
from,
you meant by objective morality was my point.
Okay, there are two sets of the mirror. There is a right and there is a wrong. Right is not causing a harm or hurt to any sentient being, and the wrong is causing a harm and hurt to any sentient being. That's very simple, right?
It's simple, but is that objective morality? Is that what you're saying?
And even that has conditions,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would say, while I echo your enthusiasm for being able to work toward.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. For being able to work toward this idea of what we could call objective morality, right? So I have repeatedly said in the past, while I don't think morality is objective, I do think that morality can be more objective than people typically give it credit for. And that is because I think innately most people don't want to deal with pain and suffering and torture, right? And so just by virtue of that fact, we should know that we don't want to do that to others. However, while that might be the case, that we know it might be moral to do it, we still do it, right? And we justify that with different reasons, different actions, different needs that we also consider moral. And that makes it subjective, because those needs, those requirements that cause us to create pain and suffering for others, well, those are going to differ between groups. And so that is kind of why morality could never truly be objective. And not even just between groups, but between individuals, right? So I'll give you a good example, but people think that all atheists think exactly the same. And I can tell you that we might agree nearly, across the board, or nearly 100% that there probably is no God, or at least we're not convinced, but there are even certain levels of that where we disagree. And then open that up to a plethora of other issues that people automatically associate with being an atheist. I might feel extremely differently about something than Kelley does, and vice versa. And that, that doesn't mean that because we're atheists, we have to think a certain way. I digress a little bit, but I hope my point was clear that, something can never be objective because there are always going to be nuances to it. And so that's kind of where I stand on that. Kelley, I want to get your thoughts on that and then give Slavic a chance to respond. By the way, Slavic, when I introduced you, I said Slavic, and that question mark actually stands for, is Slavic a believer or a non-believer? And I'd like to know what it is you believe and why. And then I want to see what Kelley has to say.
I believe in Buddhism.
Okay, good. Okay. All right. So you're a believer, I guess. Kelley, what were your thoughts on that little tangent I went on?
I agree with everything you said. I would like to hear more what Slavic has to say. I want to see where he's talking about this bridge between the two. So can you go ahead, Slavic? Can you explain more about what you're saying, what you're talking about?
Yes. It's like you are being your own God. It's like because Buddha said that there is no need to worship anything, right? There is no need to follow any preset rules. However, the Book of Zen talks about what is the cause of suffering. What is the why do we desire things, and what are we willing to do to obtain what we desire, and therefore to obtain what we desire must cause the least amount of suffering to us or everybody else. So that's where I would stand on my own awareness.
So what you're saying is that sometimes we have to curb what we really want because it can constrict what another person really wants. Is that what you're saying?
We just have to be very careful not to make others unhappy with our actions.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. But like, just say I want to do something simple, like I want to go fishing today, right? But by doing that, the person that I work with now has to do twice as much work, which is not going to make them happy. But that was a consequence I wasn't thinking of when I just made this simple decision to go fishing. Do you see what I mean? How is it that how do we make sure that we're not harming people in ways that we haven't thought about or that we don't intentionally want to do? I mean, we can go through life not intentionally hurting people, but we can hurt people anyway. So how do we try to stop that harm from being done? Or is it even important to try to stop that harm?
Well, the honesty of being open about what our beliefs are and what we want in life is to communicate with other people and tell them, hey, do you think this action of mine will have consequences on how you feel towards me?
But should we remain silent about who we are or not do the things that we want to do because other people might be slighted? I mean, I get it. But there's got to be a line that is drawn. I mean, go ahead, Slavic.
The system of religions and of beliefs has been known to break up families due to disagreements of how should we go about being moral. I think that's a fair point to make, right?
I think that is a fair point. I think that's been substantiated over and over again. A lot of us have differences with our families, not necessarily me, but I know people who have, just don't talk to their family members anymore because of what they believe. But let me ask you this. Why should that person not be vocal about what they believe, or not even be vocal? Why should they just not believe it if it's going to make somebody else happy, right? So, for example, I kind of dealt with this a little bit when I came out as an atheist, and I use the word coming out not disrespectfully to people who have come out in other ways, which of course can have much more harsh implications. But I think they're similar, right? Because when you come up in a society that is largely religious, and then you identify yourself as the one that is not, that society can kind of cave in on you a little bit. And so should I have not been vocal about who I am, right? If it made me feel good, because I wanted those people to be more comfortable, like I shouldn't have to hold back with who I am. Go ahead.
It's about being a little selfish in the right kind of way, because you got to do what is best for you. And
I agree with you there.
I would
But
say,
that would
I would say,
that would work against what you were saying before, though. Sometimes, right? That's the point I was trying to make. What is best for you and what you need, sometimes what you literally need to do, is going to hurt other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm asking you if
Well-
it's not important, or how do we deal with the fact that these other people are going to be unintentionally hurt?
okay. I think it's more important about how I feel and how I go about what is moral, because with time that other person will see that my action so many months ago or so many years ago was the right action, and sooner or later they might come aboard.
I don't think so. I want to step in there and I have to push back on that really hard because, there are some people that will never
Really?
accept. Yes,
Yeah,
listen.
yeah, totally.
There are people out there that will never accept their own children. They will never accept their own brother, their own sister, what have you, because of who they are, whether that be them being a homosexual or them being an atheist, or them wanting to marry somebody of a different faith or a different ethnicity or a different race, rather. You know, we see time and time again people disowning their own family members and standing their ground on it and never swaying, and families breaking up over that simply because that person who wanted to be themselves, that person that wanted to stand up and say, this is who I am, is not being accepted. And instead of loving that person, we do see their friends, their family, their society ostracize them. This is I don't even know where to start with this. I mean, this is common throughout history. This is common in our society today. It's common in politics of today versus the politics of you name what era. I mean, you take your pick, and we could point to a situation where somebody's beliefs led them to be, ostracized. Not only that, but disparaged in other ways, killed, right, tortured, and it's something that we need to avoid. And that person standing up and saying, well, this is what I need to do because this is who I am, that is moral to them, but it is immoral to the entire society around them. And they actually put themselves at risk. That is where those two ideas clash. And I would like to know, Slavic, how you disagree with that. I think that I can point to a number of examples taking place today where that's absolutely happening.
So let me turn the mirror on you, please, and let me ask you this: should I suffer? Because I see my parents maybe once a year, for 3 or 4 weeks, right?
Okay.
So should I suffer? Should I suffer 3 Sundays, per year, and follow my parents to church because I want to make them happy?
I would say that you need to do what is good for you. Okay. And I don't think you're necessarily suffering. I mean, let's just dial that down a little bit. If you have family that you love and you don't want to hurt them,
Of course.
and you say, yeah, of course. I mean, hey, I'm glad to hear that. If you have family that you love, you don't want to hurt them, you don't want to disappoint them, and you feel like, you know what, this isn't something that I need to quote unquote fall on my sword for, right? Or plant my flag on. I don't need to fight this battle. I can suck it up and I can do church three weeks, and then we can all go about our business. However, there might be some people out there that say to themselves, I just can't live like this anymore. And it might not be going to church, right? It might be being in a family or in a group that, I don't know, is racist or hates the LGBTQ community. When that person inside is, somebody who is not racist or is maybe a member of the LGBTQ, and they're screaming, they're the ones suffering on the inside because they can't be who they want to be, right? And so I don't think, and I don't mean any disrespect here, Slavic, but I don't think that your situation there is, comparable to the same level as the situation that I just explained. However, that's your choice to make. Okay. And if you need to make a decision, well, then that's on you. And you know what? I think your family should be supportive. Now, they might not. And it sounds to me like you're saying, well, I'm in a situation where if I don't do this, my family might not love me the same way they used to. And that sucks. But you know what? oh man, I hate to say this, but we are born into these families, right? We don't always ask for family members. You know, sometimes they're just thrown at us, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. You sometimes have to go your own way. And so I've gone on a little bit of a tangent. Kelley, do you have any response that you want to give to Slavic and maybe reflect on my thoughts there?
One of the things I want to say is that these are things that I don't think that in the big scope of things that we need to worry about. If I first off, I don't believe in karma, which is a big part of your Buddhist beliefs, I'm pretty sure. So I don't think that I don't believe in reincarnation, so I can't believe in karma because that's, you know, it has to do with reincarnation. But I'm not really worried about the unintentional problems that may arise from my own actions. I don't go out of my way to cause harm to people. I don't try to cause harm to people. And I don't worry about, like I said, these side things that may happen. If I hear about them and somebody was seriously hurt by something I did, unintentionally hurt by something I did, I am more than willing to make amends for that and to do what I can to make it right. But these are things that I just can't worry about because I can't control them. I have no control over it. So that to me, it's just like a senseless thing to worry about, if that makes any sense. It's senseless. Does that make sense?
Can I have just a one quick side, kind of a side question?
Sure.
Why you don't believe in karma?
Because I don't believe in
I mean, it's
reincarnation.
pretty simple.
I don't believe in
Well, but-
reincarnation.
okay.
You don't have karma. You don't have karma without reincarnation. Or are you talking about the new age? I always say new age is one word, so it rhymes with sewage. Or are you talking about the new age definition of karma, where it's like instant, where, you know, like as you reap, so shall you sow, or as you sow, shall you reap? Sorry. Because karma has to do with what your station in life is going to be in your next life. It has nothing to do with what happens to you now in this life.
Okay. So let's make it very simple. For every action, there is equal and an opposite reaction, right? This is the law of physics. I mean, so if I hurt an animal or if I make a human cry or something, sooner or later, and it's usually much, much later, something, and I you know, quote unquote something, because I don't know what it is, something will pay me back.
Yeah,
And
well,
it will pay me back
what you're talking about is a simple law of probability. If you spend your life as an asshole, eventually somebody's going to be an asshole back to you, because nobody likes assholes, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not karma. That's just humans being humans. I mean, and I think if you're nice and you're positive, you'll get more positive feedback. Sure, there's some people out there that might try and take advantage of your positivity or your kindness and maybe see it as a weakness. But generally speaking, you know, people remember how they're treated, and you know, they respond to how they're treated. So I think it's very important to try and be nice to people and you know, treat everybody with respect, with dignity. I spoke earlier in the show about like being American. In our culture, right? We have this kind of culture that's born out of maybe religion and individuality because of the way that we kind of rebelled against, I don't know, dictatorships and Catholicism and things like that. And you know, we have this kind of like underdog, individualistic, and you know, that kind of mindset, right? But we also have this mindset that is like administrative, where we guarantee equal rights and equal protections to everybody, no matter what. And I would say that, you know, if you kind of just follow that line of thinking, where, you know, you go through your everyday interactions with people with the assumption that, like, regardless of who you are or what you're like, you know, I'm going to treat you with a manner of respect and dignity, I think that you're more likely to get that back. How is that? We don't need a God for that, right? We don't need a Buddha for that, do we? Or excuse me. I'm taking Buddha out of context, but kind of purposely, because Buddha is not a deity. I would say that incorrectly, Buddha has been deified, right, by people who don't really understand the philosophy of Buddhism, in the same way that karma is kind of incorrectly understood as well, just the way Kelley did. So before I keep going, why don't you clarify? Go ahead.
So would you agree that human brain, human psyche needs an anchor to hold on to be based on, that need a set of rules? This is what we should not do, because if we do this, the consequence of such action will be this action, right? And I agree, we don't need a religion for that. But, Buddhism, in a way, does, create this anchor in your psyche to something to anchor your own morality to, right?
Why can't we just use secular laws for that?
And why can't I just say, I know the difference between right and wrong? Like, I know what's right because I know what I would want to happen to me, and I know what's beneficial for me and my family and my loved ones, and I would want to bestow that on somebody to the maximum ability possible. Like, why couldn't I just say that? Why do I have to come up with this theoretical anchor? I don't even know, I don't even know if that really applies, across the board to everybody. Like, I don't even know if anybody would understand that to be the same thing, an anchor.
Because human nature is trained from the childhood onward to follow something, right?
I don't know that that's true. That might have been true for you, but it certainly wasn't true for me.
We follow our parents. I mean, that's for sure. But I would say in most cases, we follow the generation that came before us.
I've always been real rebellious throughout my life. I've never been a follower. So
soon in life, when we are young children, we are introduced to one set of rules or the other set of rules, right?
Correct.
I mean, kids are not just let alone on the street and left to their own devices, right? I mean, kids are taught some kind of a rules.
I mean, some are though. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just, before we get too carried away, like, you're talking as if, well, all children are not left to their own devices. Some children are actively out there raising themselves, and it's unfortunate. Go ahead, Kelley.
Yeah, I was just agreeing with that. There are children out there raising themselves. I've seen it. When I was in the military, I was stationed on the southern border of the United States, and we would go down into Mexico, and you would see 8-year-old kids sleeping in doorways all night long because they had nowhere to go. The only people they had to rely on was themselves.
Slavic, let me interject here, because I worry that we're getting like a little far off topic and going down a rabbit hole, so to speak. But what I want to say is, it sounds to me like you are trying to create a blanket policy that works for everybody, right? And that goes back to our original discussion about objective morality, right? You're trying to say, well, there is a set of rules that works for all of us, and we should all understand what those rules. I don't necessarily agree with that. And I don't see any reason so far that you've given me to believe that. So you called in and you said something about you wanted to talk about freelance awareness. I don't know that I got a definition of that, but it seems like this call just went on about objective morality, to which we've been talking about this for a little while now, and we haven't really gotten anywhere. I'm not convinced that there is an objective morality. I don't know, Kelley, where do you stand on this so far?
I think I made my stance that we can say something is objective to a subjective moral standard that we can agree upon. We can set a moral standard. That standard will be subjective, but if we use that as the standard, we can then judge whether an action is objective or subjective to that standard. So is there a complete objective morality? No, because any standard that we use is going to be subjective.
But there is only one way to tell if somebody is hurt or not, right?
I don't know
I
that
mean,
that's true either.
I don't know that that's true either.
What do you mean? Clarify.
well, if my action is a wrong action, it's pretty obvious. I mean, there is no, there is no mystery, between what is right and what is
Is
wrong.
it
Or
is it is
there-
it
or
is it obvious to you what's being wrong about it? Is it obvious to you?
I was always told that the Bible had no gray areas. There was no in between. It was either yes or it was a no.
Yeah,
Right.
I get that.
So-
I've heard the same thing from a lot of Christians. But what I'm asking you is, if a
So-
certain action was immoral, it was a bad action, would you know that it was a bad action before you did it?
Well, I think you got me here.
Well, let me ask you this.
Maybe-
And it's not
maybe
about
not
getting
always.
you. It's not
Yeah,
about
I'm not
getting
trying
you.
to get you. I'm just trying to get you to open up your mind and see that there might be other ways to look at what you're saying. I'm not trying to get you. I'm not trying to win or anything. I'm just trying to show you that maybe there might be other ways to look at it that you haven't thought about. That's all.
Yeah, Slavic, your claim, like, if you make an action and that action hurts somebody, then that was a wrong action. But what if that person was trying to get into your home and you were protecting your family and then you hurt them? Well, you could take the position that that was a moral action. But what if that person that was getting in your home felt like they absolutely had to get into your home and harm you in order to protect themselves? Well, that was a moral action. I mean, it's impossible to get toward this idea of objective morality when there are so many different ways of defining morality. None of us are going to look at it the same ever, and so it's a tricky subject. I would agree with you, though, that most of us probably don't want to feel pain or suffer, and to the max extent possible, we should try not to do that to other people, regardless of what our beliefs are or what their beliefs are. And I think I can conclude there. So I'll kick it over to Kelley for some closing comments, and then Slavic. I really appreciate your call and thanks for being with us today.
Closing
Thank you so much.
comment. Closing comment, I guess, is
Yes.
just that always remember that there's probably always another side to everything, to every action you do, a side that you don't know about, that you may never know about. That your actions may have better consequences than you were counting on. They may have more negative consequences than you were counting on. And if you don't intend to hurt people, you try your best to do good. That's about all you can do. And that is the best you can do, is do your best. So don't worry about the other things, just do your best.
I do appreciate you guys very much, and I thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, no problem. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah.
You should definitely give us a call back and keep watching our shows. And thank you very much for the call.
Yeah, thanks for calling in. Appreciate it. Interesting call.
Yeah, that was good. I mean, it took on a direction I didn't see it going, but it's always important to kind of talk about that because, when it comes to discussing religion and what's right and what's wrong, there really is no way to kind of define right and wrong for everybody. We're all just kind of in this space trying to get along, trying to share this tiny world for the little amount of time that we have. And we just kind of got to do our best and make sure that we're not the cause for somebody else's suffering, but we can't really avoid that all the time, and it's unfortunate. Recognizing that, though, I think it's the first step to that. So, great call. Appreciate it, Slavic. So go ahead.
I think a lot of people look at Buddhism when they come out of Christianity. I think Slavic was one of those people because he mentioned growing up with the Bible and now he was looking at Buddhism. And I did the same thing. And I've talked to dozens and dozens of people who have done the same thing as well. And it's kind of appealing. It's an atheistic religion. There's no God that you have to worship in it. But I think in the long run, most people who are actually looking for something better will end up giving that up, just like I did as well. So I find that interesting as well, because Buddhism is actually, and maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think
Buddhism developed as a rejection to the original Hindu faiths, if I'm not mistaken, right? So I think it was Brahmanism that was I guess oppressive to a certain group. I'm not an expert on the subject, but out of that kind of came Buddhism. This idea that, you know what, we don't have to believe in any of these deities. And I always find that interesting, because when a religion goes wrong, you end up with the birth of a different kind of religion. Now, there's some what do you call it? Disagreement on if Buddhism is actually a religion, but it's at least a response to a religion. And in the same light, we could talk to Protestantism and the way that was a rejection of Catholicism, and Catholicism, where it failed to take care of all of its people. You kind of got this other group that stepped up and said, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. And so I always find that interesting. But that was a great first call. Want to talk about some of the things that the ACA is actually doing. People might not be aware of our brick fundraiser, but we have been running it for a while. We will be completing phase 1 at the end of January. Our featured brick this week comes from Michael from Wisconsin, who engraved "Imagine No Religion." Great phrase. Very popular song out there that comes from, but I'm not going to sing it. I don't want to violate anybody's intellectual property. But thank you so much for your purchase, Michael. Get your purchase in by the end of the month at tiny.cc/ACA bricks. And also available on tiny.cc/ACA flyers. We do have these printable flyers that you can hang up around town, community bulletin boards, etc. They're printable. You can log onto our website, print them off, take them with you, kind of get people to call in, defend their faith, but also posit what their thoughts are. And you can post these. We ask you to do it with permission, and let people know they should call the show. And if you do post any flyers, just make sure that you snap a picture of yourself putting it up with permission. Again, send it to tv@atheist-community.org. We may feature your photo on an upcoming show. I wish we could say that we will definitely feature your photo, but I have no idea what kind of photos we're going to get. And people have some pretty crazy imagination. So we're just going to, hope for the best and, just prepare to not show it. And we do want you to know what's going on in our community. For that, we have an updated website. So go to www.atheist-community.org, where you can learn about the organization itself, its policies, and how you can get involved. I just listed a couple of ways you can get involved with us, but there is so many. So go to that website, check that out. I think that we do pretty great work, Kelley. I love the mission of the ACA.
I agree.
Yeah. Particularly for me, I'm of the mindset, you can believe whatever you want to believe. Just keep it out of school, keep it out of government and public spaces. I mean, you've got your own institutions, your own buildings. You don't pay taxes. You have got what everybody wants. Why come and put it in our faces? And I promise you, I won't put my atheism in your face. I will only meet you where you come and challenge me. Otherwise, I'm out.
It is part of two of the major religions that they have to go out and spread the religion. So, I mean, they're being taught to go and do that. They're indoctrinated into it, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think anybody should be out in anybody's face about what they should believe or not believe, but it is part of the religion. So, I don't know if we should be actively fighting back against that, but I think that the fact that we do stand up and say that there are other ways without fighting, actively fighting back against it, I think is a good thing to do. Mm-hmm. We do need other voices out there in the darkness saying that there's other ways to think. So, and I think just providing that voice is a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. And so part of the reason, I struggled with my religion for a long time. Okay. I was a believer. I was not a believer. I was spiritual. I, took in a little bit of a lot. Right. Each religion, maybe I saw the good things in for a period and maybe figured, this works for me. This doesn't work for me. And it was finding the ACA so many years ago where I discovered that people are actively having these conversations that I didn't know other people were having, and so I thought, holy crap, I can actively talk about this stuff. Like there are other people who are out there that think like I do. And you know, if I can just affect one person and make them think to themselves like, hey, you know, I'm different. I'm different from the rest of my family or my community. I don't actually really believe in the things that I'm told I have to believe in. Well, I feel like I've helped somebody. And for me, that is extremely fulfilling. I don't know how do you, you know, how does that comport with you, Kelley?
Yeah, I love doing what I'm doing. I like, now I don't work so much with religion on a day-to-day basis. I do more like with woo, which I mean, you can equate to religion very much so. But I love going out and trying to get people to think about what their beliefs are, especially if they're bad beliefs and they don't really have a foundation.
Yeah.
And it surprises me how many people do believe things without that solid foundation. So if you can point that out, that they don't have that, it kind of makes them realize that the things that they're believing in might not actually be real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And they don't even know what it is that they believe. Right. I remember, again, I'm going to talk to my education, but I mean, that's where it really all was challenged, my upbringing. But, you know, as a student with, I was getting a minor, I was a history major, but a minor in religious studies, taking a Bible literature class. And on day one, our professor said, who was in the Garden of Eden? And everybody said Satan. And she said, really? Read that again. No, it wasn't Satan. It was just a talking serpent, literally just a talking serpent. It was not Satan. And I said, wow, this is going to be a good course. And you know, that was when I read the entire Bible. That was, I don't know, 20 years ago or something like that. I haven't read the entire Bible since, and I've probably forgotten more than I learned. But, you know, the point was, man, I took the steps to kind of challenge myself and be exposed to something new. And it opened my mind into something that, man, I would never trade for the world. So,
I've also been surprised at Christians that I've met who thought there were things in the Bible that aren't there.
Yeah.
Not only that they didn't realize the things that were in there, but they really had an idea of things that were in there that aren't. As a good example, recently an evangelical friend of mine said God only helps those who help themselves. That's in the Bible. And of course, that's not in the Bible at all. That's one of Aesop's fables, you know. And he had to actually look it up on his phone before he would believe me that was not in the Bible. Yeah. And this is the guy that goes to Bible study every Thursday night.
Bible study, but only certain things that sound good, that support their narrative. Because I doubt anybody in Bible study. And I'll speak to my own experience as a youth coming up in the Lutheran Church. Never did anybody ever teach Exodus 21 to me, right? So I mean, that just goes without saying. There are certain things that, like I said, I think the theme all along for this show has been like, you know, the clergy doesn't want you to do some things. They don't want you to kind of question them and read the things that are not going to be beneficial to upholding this faith. Kelley, we got some other things that we need to do, and that is the top 5 patrons.
Oh yeah, those guys.
Yeah, those guys. And you know, I'm gonna give you're the man today, Kelley. I mean, it's on you to get through this. So
it's up to me, huh?
Yeah.
All right, the top 5 patrons. Drum roll. Number 1, Dingleberry Jackson. Yay! Of course, yeah. Gotta love Dingleberry. Number 2, oops, all singularity. 3, Davor Valjin. I hope I said that right. Number 4, Kalevi Helveti. 5, Left in the Leaves. Is that somebody that's on Discord? It might be.
Yeah, I think we've spoken to him before, or her.
Yeah, if it is, sure. Yeah, you know, if you are somebody I know on Discord, drop me a line. Let me know it's you. And honorable mention, Diane Marie Leonard. So thank you all very, very much for being patrons. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we also have some super chats. And so I want to knock out a super chat or two. And I don't want our people to think we're not including them. Looks like Atheist Who Dat sends $6.66. Prayers are answered. Prayers were answered. I'm happy to see Kelley and Jimmy. That's great. And then we've
Thanks.
got, Infidel 64.
No,
Infidel,
not that guy.
you've only been a member for 6 months. Come on, man. Step up your game. No, 666 from him as well. What a great combo. I have been looking forward to it. No thoughts and prayers needed. Infidel is a great guy. I love him, man. I love working with him. I was just on the nonprofits with him. I'm going to be on the nonprofits with him this week. Man, love that dude. So thank you, Infidel. Thanks for checking in with us. I know that you were super happy to see Kelley and I work together. And also, I just want to double back to our top 5, right? And our honorable mention. Thank you to everybody who gives to us on Patreon. You know, if you want to have your name read on air, then please consider supporting us at tiny.cc/PatreonTH. And it looks like, oh man, you
know what? Can I give another shout out to Infidel too? Because he does a lot of work behind the scenes on nonprofit. He's a really hardworking guy. And thanks Infidel, for being who you are and what you do here for the ACA. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So man, is that it? Is that we're good, man. We are all caught up. We got another caller on the line. One of our own wants to check in with us. The lovely Blind Limey, who I had I had the experience of meeting in person. That's what I wanted to say when we were at the back cruise, and what a lovely fella. So Blind Limey, without further ado, you are on with Kelley and I. How's it going?
Hello, gentlemen.
Hey.
Not to bogart the airwaves too much, but I actually wanted to get your guys' sort of opinion on something on the air, because I don't know whether I handled this conversation I had very well. So in the ACA fan Discord, who everyone should go and visit, by the way, I got into a very long conversation with a polytheist, and it came down to the defining rational, reasonable evidence, these terms that we use. And the context was that I believe that any superstitional thought or superstitional belief is inherently irrational. It's bad thinking. And they basically argued me down that even if a thought is wrong, as long as you believe it, you can rationalize it yourself, then it's rational. And as long as you find it internally convincing, it's reasonable. And you can't discount personal experience as a form of evidence. But I don't know, I felt that was unsatisfying. You got any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, go ahead, Kelley. You seem like you have.
I was going to say, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. You can rationalize all kinds of very bad ideas. We've seen it happen throughout history. I'm not going to invoke Godwin's law, but I could. And but we've seen throughout history that people have rationalized a lot of really, really bad ideas. So to say an idea is rational does not mean that it's a good idea, that it's an idea we should use. It just means that somebody somewhere has taken the time out to convince themselves and to convince others that there is a train of thought that makes it all right to do it. It doesn't mean that it's good. And again, the same thing is true of reasonable. I can make all kinds of reasoning to justify bad actions. I wouldn't do it, but people have throughout history. So I don't think rational or reasonable are good adjectives to describe a good idea, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I would say so too. So I think I'm with Blind Limey to find that justification unsatisfying. I feel like, and this just comes from, I think, years of challenging my own beliefs or my own preconceived notions, but I would need evidence to make something not supernatural or anything like that in order for me to believe it and consider it rational. However, on Kelley's point, there's this idea of like a rational actor, for example. A rational actor is somebody who does something in concert or in accordance with a goal that they're trying to achieve. So, for example, suicide bombers. Suicide bombers, are they rational actors? I think most people judging a suicide bomber from the standard of why they are doing it versus them actually carrying it out might say, well, that's irrational, right? Especially a skeptic like myself, or maybe some of you guys might look at somebody who is a suicide bomber because of their religion or because of some supernatural, superstitious thing. Yeah, of course, irrational, right? But if they are carrying that out and they have rationalized this chain of events that says doing X will lead to Y or Z, and therefore I must do X, then that actually does make them a rational actor. And I studied that a little bit, for my graduate degree, and I was really that was something that I kind of was hung up on for a long time. So those are my initial thoughts on that. I don't know, Blind Limey, how did we do? What do you think about all that?
So yeah, I mean, I rehabilitated the language I was using, and I will likely not, move forward with that. I think the sticking point and the context again was that I said, well, do you feel that? So I said to this polytheist, do you feel that any evidence you could give me that's convincing to you would be convincing to me? And he says, well, I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not trying to convert you. And essentially said that all of his evidence was personal experience. And I said, well, you do realize, or I'm sure you understand, that that's not very compelling to me because I can't experience what you've experienced. He goes, yeah, I understand. And again, that kind of just felt like just an end of a conversation. But I have a visceral dislike of supernatural thinking. I feel that it's the thin end of a wedge that could move towards believing very, very harmful things, not just in religion, but generally like anti-vax and stuff like that. So I wonder if is there a better argument I could have used or a better way I could have taken that conversation.
See, I think that person you were talking to is a good example of how somebody can rationalize a bad view. I'm pretty sure I know who you were talking to as well.
Mm. I'm not mentioning any names, and I'm trying to keep it.
No, I'm not going to mention any names either. I'm pretty sure I know who you were talking to, just because I'm also a moderator on the Discord server, and they're pretty much a regular over there, and they have expressed their polytheistic ideas quite often. And I don't see any difference in the way they justify what they believe in as I see from any other theist or religious person. They seem to be able to justify it in their own mind that theirs is better, that this is the right way to do things. And again, like I said, that's a good example how you can rationalize a bad idea, because this person has done that. They've rationalized that their religious view is actually logical to them, when I don't see it being logical.
Yeah, I think we have a tendency to maybe conflate some terms, rationality and what's logical. So and Blind Limey hit it on the head. Like, yeah, I've kind of altered my vocabulary on that. I mean, what we typically understand as rational, actually, might mean something really different to somebody else and is still rational. So yeah, that's all I got. Yeah. Anything else for us, Blind Limey, before we let you go?
No, just doing a good job. You really wrangled with the previous caller. We'll talk more about that in the after show. I shan't take any more of your gentleman's time, but thank you for having me on. Bit nostalgic being a caller.
Yeah. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks for calling. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Take care.
I love Jamie.
Yeah. I love working with him, and he's always down for some Discord, leading some great conversations. So that's always good. While we have another caller coming in, I do want to just get to a few things. So, like I said earlier, when we got to our voicemail, we have some people that are making some comments about us, Kelley, for better or for worse. They don't always have great things to say, but just because you don't, agree with us or see us in a positive light doesn't mean that we can't give you some acknowledgement. So we're going to run through a few of these screenshots we have of some of our harshest critics. So I guess we could start right away with number one. So if our crew, our wonderful crew, whoa, all your conspiracy theories on Christianity and Christmas are made up. I remember the good old days when atheists were serious thinkers. Those days are gone. I don't know, Kelley, do you think that I'm a serious thinker? I feel like I'm a serious thinker.
Yeah, I'm wondering what the guy was talking about with your conspiracy theory.
Yeah, so it wasn't a conspiracy. I mean, I did an introduction a few months back, and I talked about all of the pagan religions that have influenced Christmas.
I remember that.
There's and some people didn't really like that. I challenge people to go check out that show, maybe open up some books, and check out some of the references I made. But man, I kind of know what I'm talking about there. I would never call myself an expert, but none of the things I said were wrong. I mean, how does that make me, not a critical thinker? I think in the end, it makes me a very critical thinker. So
sometimes the truth hurts.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't want to hurt people, but I got to tell them the truth. And so, is that objectively moral? Who knows? But let's
as long
get
as
to
it's unintentional.
Yeah, right. So we got another one for me. Number two, atheists spend all of their energy. Let's see. Atheists spend all of their energy to trying to disprove something they say they don't believe is real. Why? Because they know it's real, but repress that knowledge out of fear. And that was being directed towards me. I don't know what that intro was, but what I can say is some of the intros that I've done that have drawn some pretty harsh criticism was my reading of Genesis and talking about the story of Abraham and how Abraham had a slave that he forced himself upon, and that God was okay with that. Man, did I catch a lot of fire for that. The problem with that is I read directly from the Bible for that. Like there's no making, I'm not making this stuff up here, folks. I mean, this is in your Bible. Kelley, I don't know. What do you think?
That just reminded me, we did a story on Nonprofits a few weeks back about a guy who had gone to a funeral and had run into a bunch of very far right-wing people who were in politics, and came up to him and were complaining about his political leanings. And he had a minister tell him that the minister had just read out the Beatitudes, and somebody in the congregation had come up and asked him where he got that liberal bullshit from that he was reading. And he was like, no, this isn't liberal bullshit. This is right out of the Bible. These are the words of Jesus. So
we did this show with you. I did that show with you.
There you go. Go.
I remember that. And that was at, like you said, that was at the pastor's father's funeral.
Yeah.
Right. And instead of paying respects, instead of, giving some condolences, these people came up and said, I disagree with your politics and I disagree with your version of Christianity. I find that absolutely, I don't know, monstrous is the term that comes to mind.
And this goes back to what we were saying about a lot of people who profess to follow the Bible, not knowing what is in the Bible. I mean, these were people who didn't, the Beatitudes of all things, that of all things that Jesus said in the Bible, that's the one thing you should know as a Christian, and didn't know it was in there.
Yeah. Well, we got somebody on the line who wants to talk about what was actually in the Bible. Cool. And so we are going to take Ace. Ace, we didn't get pronouns. We know he's calling from the United States. We are happy to talk to Ace. Says that he wants to discuss that Jesus was in the Old Testament. So, Ace, you are on with Kelley and Jimmy. How can we help you today, sir? I think it's sir. Excuse me if that was disrespectful.
To discuss. Say that again.
No, I called you sir, and you didn't have pronouns listed, and I apologize if that was an error. So anyway, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I want to talk about how Jesus Christ is a branch in the Old Testament.
Okay, where?
And how to understand the Trinity. Do you understand the Trinity? There's two different arguments that there is in Christians.
Why don't you give us yours?
I understand the Catholic argument of the Trinity, yes.
You understand there's two main arguments, right?
So here's the deal.
Of the Trinity.
So Ace, why don't you tell us what it is that you believe, right? And then kind of get to why we should believe it, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Okay. Well, the Trinity, the view that I believe is that the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit are one and separate, that they are separate, but they're one. In Deuteronomy 6:4, it says, I, the Lord God, am one. But that's a plural one. It's the same word one used in in Genesis 2:20.
Hold on.
Man and woman become wife; they become one flesh.
I'm going to interject here, Ace. I'm going to interject, and forgive me, but I'll tell you why. I don't want to turn this. I don't want to turn this into a platform where you come on and you preach, and you kind of try and use your holy scripture to get us to believe, because that Kelley and I have been through that for decades. I'm not going to adhere to what somebody is saying simply by them repeating an ancient book. And I mean that respectfully. What I want you to do, tell me what it is that you believe and tell me why I should believe it without using Deuteronomy or the rest of the Bible.
Without using the Bible, I'm supposed to, that's like, that's impossible. Okay, hold up.
Here, you know what, Ace, let me try to explain something real quick. Let's say I had somebody sent me a letter and it said that Ace had just robbed the bank, right? That's what it says. It's written right here. Ace robbed the bank. Now, should I believe that Ace robbed the bank, or should I go look for evidence outside of the letter that Ace robbed the bank? I would go look for evidence outside the letter, right? Well, when you recite the Bible to us, what you're basically doing is you're reciting the letter. So what we need to do is we need to find some evidence that's outside the letter to show us that what it says in the letter in the Bible is actually true.
Well, I mean, you're just going around in a conundrum. I could flip it back at you and say, show me evidence where there definitely is not a God. Can you show
I'm not,
me
I didn't make the claim that there is no, I didn't make the claim that there is no God, and I am not going to make the claim that there is no God. There may well be a God that I don't know about.
Okay, so you're agnostic then. Is that what you're saying? This is an atheist channel. You're agnostic.
Oh, hey, Ace, let's handle this conversation with a little bit of like professionalism, I'll call it, right? So
I'm actually an atheist.
So I will tell you that atheism, right, is basically me saying I am not convinced what you believe. Boom, I'm an atheist. Just by virtue of that statement, I am not convinced of your God. That's it. I'm an atheist, okay? And I get to no, hold on. Listen. You don't need to get worked up about it, right?
Yeah,
we just want to have like a nice, peaceful conversation, right? Where one of mutual respect, right? So what Kelley is kind of saying, or was saying, was that, religion is the claim, okay? So me saying I don't buy it is me being an atheist. That does not mean that now the requirement is on me to prove you wrong. Okay. We don't use that standard for anything that we do, right? If I took you to court, right, or you were arrested and you were tried with murder, and the best defense they had was, look, I know that it's murder. You got to take my word on this. I know that he did it and he's guilty, and that's it, right? That's probably not a good standard of evidence for you, right? So for me, I apply that same standard of evidence to believing in something, right? So I want to know what the evidence is, what the facts are, and put it all together to see if it makes sense. And I'm saying that none of it does. Not just Christianity. I'm not attacking the Holy Trinity. I'm not attacking Christianity. I'm not even attacking. I'm just saying no religion has fulfilled that requirement yet.
Okay. All right. It's like Jesus said, if you don't believe me, believe the works that I do. Do you believe that Jesus did miracles?
No.
Do you believe Jesus existed? Was he a person?
Maybe.
What difference does it make? Why?
He may have been a person, but I don't believe any of the supernatural things that have been attached to his name.
And why should I? I mean, this is your opportunity, right? We ask people to call in and say, hey, here's why you should believe this. And now I'm asking you to tell me why. Tell me why.
Yes, I'm giving you an argument. All right, just hold up. Well, okay. Now, who would have the most to gain by refuting that Jesus did miracles?
I'm not
Would be
refuting
the Jews,
anything.
right? No, the Jews do not refute that Jesus didn't do miracles. They don't say Jesus didn't do miracles. They believe Jesus did miracles. They just don't believe that he's the Son of God and that he resurrected. Now, if
I'm not so sure that's
the
true, because
people
I've
that-
had some Jewish friends and they don't think Jesus performed miracles either. I mean, if Jews believed that Jesus performed all the miracles he did, they wouldn't be Jewish, right? They'd be Christians.
No, that's not true. The Pharisees at the time believed they'd seen the miracles that he did.
How do you know?
There's no text back then. I've never seen any evidence.
You're claiming.
Of any
Wait a
Jew
minute. Wait a minute. Wait a
back
minute. Wait a
in the
minute.
first
Please stop.
century.
Please stop for 1 second. You just told me that people saw things that we haven't even proved happened yet, and that those people were convinced that it happened. But we don't even know who those people were. So how could you make a claim like that?
Well, how do we even know that, I've never seen your father. How do I know that he ever existed?
You don't, but I
seen him,
probably
so-
had a father. I mean, that's not making any supernatural claim. If I say I had a father, that's not saying that anything out of the ordinary. Everybody has a father. We know that everybody has had a father. That's nothing unusual. But when you say somebody walked on water, that's an unusual claim. When you say somebody turned water into wine, that's an unusual claim. I've never seen anybody do that. I've seen stage magicians do that as an illusion, but I've never actually seen somebody turn water into wine. I've never actually seen somebody walk across the surface of water. So these are two different types of claims that you're making here. So it's saying something about my father and comparing that to the existence of supernatural beings is not a good comparison whatsoever.
But nobody from the first century ever refuted that Jesus did those miracles. Nobody said, no, he did not. He's a liar.
Nobody ever said he did them
said
either. Nobody ever said he did them either.
What do you mean?
There's a claim in a book, and that's it.
What do you mean?
No other evidence, just the one claim, one letter that says you robbed the bank.
To say that nobody in the first century refuted that Jesus did miracles is just factually incorrect. It's historically incorrect. In the first century, the first Christians were, being persecuted. I mean, for their beliefs. Nobody believed in the Jesus character or wanted Christianity to thrive. The pagan religions of old, of the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire and North Africa, those were all replaced by Christianity eventually. But until that time, or until, a century or two before that time, they were very much the outsiders. I mean, in the first century was probably the worst for Christianity. So that is just another example of that is just another example of people kind of needing to understand, what the tenets of their religion are, where they come from. Did I say what?
Did you just say that the early Christians didn't believe Jesus did miracles?
That's not what I said, sir.
They
no,
were willing to die.
You said nobody in the first century.
You're saying they didn't believe Jesus was God?
You're not listening to me, and you're trying to talk over me, and I'm going to drop you in a second, because what you're not doing is allowing me to respond to your question. And what I said to you was in response to your claim that nobody in the first century refuted that Jesus did miracles. And in fact, the people of the first century overwhelmingly did not adhere to Christianity. The people in the little circle of the Middle East that you're talking about and the Roman Empire, where Christianity grew, right? Most of them refuted that Jesus performed miracles. Okay. And now if you're talking specifically about Christians, that's a different story, but that's why they're Christians. Of course, they didn't refute that. But I would say that there are sects within Christianity that actually question the legitimacy or the divinity of Jesus. And that's where we get the First Council of Nicaea, right? So you had the Nicene Christians who thought that, well, Jesus is divine. And then you had the Arians, the Arian Christians. Yes, the Arian movement comes from the name, the Arian sect of Christianity. And those Arians thought that Jesus was not divine. And the Council of Nicaea determined the divinity of Jesus, where now you've got this Holy Trinity. But you didn't have that Holy Trinity everywhere. So that was in the year 325. And, let's scale it back. So going into the first century, even prior to that, there was even more diffusion about what Christianity really meant. So to say that everybody believed one thing when it comes to Christianity is factually incorrect. Ace,
I didn't
the
say
floor is.
everybody believed in Christianity.
You said everybody believed. Excuse me.
I said
That
you said every.
that everybody that you
Nobody
said that everybody believed that Jesus did miracles, and that's just factually not true.
Yeah, nobody refuted that he did. There are people that
There's nobody.
there
There is nowhere in any writings at all from the first century that says Jesus performed miracles, except for the one book that is the claim that he did it. There is absolutely no evidence to support what you are saying. That's what we're saying.
Well,
We're not
there's more than one
we're just
gospel.
saying that there's no evidence for what you're saying.
Yeah, there's more than one gospel. What does that have to do with anything? That's all. Kelley is pointing to the.
He just said
Excuse
there's
me.
one book.
Yeah, the book. Yeah, I'm referring to the Bible as a complete book.
Well, it's not. I don't refer to it as a complete book.
Okay,
It's
well,
a bunch of different
there is
books
a
put together.
collection of books that are the claim, and the four books, the four gospels, don't even agree with each other. So how am I supposed to make a judgment when the books that are the claim don't even make the same claims?
How do they not agree with each other about
Well,
what?
they have four different scenarios about what happened at the tomb.
Ace, this is such a basic argument. I mean, I feel that maybe you haven't read them in any kind of with any expertise any. Go ahead, Kelley.
I'm about to say I kind of feel the same way, and I kind of feel like that he thinks that we haven't read them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just told you, Kelley and I have been doing this for a long time, and it's obvious that you don't understand that the gospels are different. Let me ask you this. How many of the gospels say that Joseph tried to divorce Mary upon finding out she was pregnant? Do you know that? You know the answer to that?
He never said they. For one, they weren't married until after he found out that she was pregnant. I mean, it doesn't even say when they got married, but they weren't married when he found out she was pregnant.
That really didn't answer his question, did it?
It didn't answer the question.
The answer would have been one of five numbers: 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4.
0.
That's not true. That's not true. So, how many of them say that? Actually, I'll give you one.
Where does it say? Give me scripture. Give me scripture to prove what you're saying. Then
I believe it's Luke. That says, upon finding out that Mary was pregnant, Joseph tried to divorce her, but the angel of God came down and convinced him not to. And if it's not Luke, forgive me, but the answer is 1. And let me say this. We're getting into this semantic argument, which I started. Okay. And I'm going to take that. But the reason I said that is because you are calling and you are treating us as if we have not given this the respect it deserves. And the fact is, I don't think you even know what's in your book. And my suggestion would be to maybe go study what it is you actually believe, because I've been saying this from the beginning, right? That most people want to challenge us on things and call us the bad guy because of our lack of belief, when really they're not the ones that believe adequately, right? You don't technically believe, do you, if you're not really reading your so-called holy book? And my position would be, how important is this to you really? If you can't tell me the key differences, and this is Jesus's life. I mean, this is your savior. You got to know this stuff.
It's Matthew 1:19.
You're wrong.
Oh, excuse me.
How
Forgive
can
me.
you get divorced from somebody you're not even married to?
The quote you're looking for is Matthew 1:19. That's the verse.
Matthew
That's the verse you
1:19.
asked
They
about.
weren't married.
Matthew,
They were engaged.
chapter 1, verses 19 and 20. That is what it says.
All right, hold on.
You can go look it up.
So our point is here, Ace. Look, I really appreciate your call. I really do. And I know that it gets a little heated, and that's probably the thing that makes people not want to call, because, hosts, we might get heated and then the caller gets heated, or vice versa, and we start exchanging. But in all reality, this is a conversation worth having. Okay. We want you to question what it is that you think because you're calling to give us the veracity of the Bible, and you haven't looked at it, and now you're actively looking at it. Like, I have legitimately, me and Kelley have made you read your Bible. I mean, I'm going to go to sleep a happy man tonight. And I don't even care if you're a Christian tomorrow when you wake up, Ace. I hope you still are, but you know what? At least you actually read it. And that's important. If people are going to try and tell me what I have to teach my children in the classroom, or what our government should be doing, they should at least know what it is they believe, and an overwhelming majority of them don't. So we have some other callers on the line. Ace, I wish that you were able to defend the Trinity, but it just didn't go that way. I want you to stay in touch with us. Okay. You are a friend of the show, and I want you to keep watching us and keep calling. And I would encourage you to go and really prepare, like, come up with the best example, the best argument that you can, and give us a call back and really get us. But I'm going to let you go, and I really appreciate your call. So thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. We are, Kelley, going to take another call from Nate, him in California. Nate says the misgendering of Jesus Christ. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Nate, looking forward to hearing from you. So you are on with Kelley and Jimmy. What can we do for you?
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. So I was listening into the previous conversation, very interesting. The one thing that was happening there was, talking over each other quite a bit, and we won't be able to get anything across if it happened on this call. So when you're talking, I promise I won't talk over you, and vice versa. So the point I'm trying to make is the misgendering of Jesus Christ, really, right? So let me set a quick backdrop to it, so what I'm saying makes sense. And you folks, of course, are atheists. I'm agnostic. So if you agree, and I'm sure you do, with the scientific method, and you've heard of something called parthenogenesis, right, which is asexual reproduction. That happens in a lot of species on Earth, right? You've got things like Komodo dragons, you've got species of python and birds, reptiles, many other creatures that reproduce asexually, right?
So Nate, real quick.
Separated from us.
I just want to interject real quick. I am not by any means an expert on biology or human reproduction. We do have some experts affiliated with this show that can speak much more intelligently to this kind of topic. And I don't want to waste your time. I don't really have the kind of time to get educated right now. I just kind of want to know what it is that you believe and why. So if you can quickly get to that, because I don't want to speak for Kelley, but Kelley, I know you know rocks, right? I mean, you're a scientist, you're a smart dude, but you're a geologist, and I don't think that really deals with parthenogenesis a whole lot. I don't know.
Nope.
Yeah. So, Nate, if you will, let's just hear what it is that you want to say, and spit it out.
Sure. Well, I'll try my best.
Okay.
Yeah. So let us then assume that Mother Mary happens to be the only documented case in human history of asexual reproduction. Right? We know that in the fable, she didn't have actual intercourse with any male human being at all, right? And it all happened, so to speak, magically. So let us call it parthenogenesis, right? Let's say she's the only documented case in humankind. Now, is it? I'm not speaking language of likely, unlikely, and saying possible, impossible. Is it possible? Sure, right? So if that's the case, then if you have to believe the Bible for it, then it so follows logically, scientifically, that Jesus Christ should be an exact genetic replica of his or her mother, isn't it? Because all the animals that reproduce asexually, their babies, progeny, are exact clones, or as precise as it can get, clones of themselves. And so, Jesus Christ was female, right? That's my conjecture. And we have been taken in for 2,000 years on everybody referring to him as male, right? Now, given that we are this age of gender acceptance, right? We know that people can have different genders and that, and we also respectfully associate pronouns and be inclusive of everybody. I think in the spirit of being progressive individuals, I'm thinking you folks should at least extend the courtesy of referring to Jesus Christ as a they, perhaps, right?
All right.
Or a female.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. It doesn't make sense because the whole story of Jesus doesn't make sense to me. If Jesus was real, I think he did have a father. We have no known cases of any deity from any culture or any time actually proving to impregnate anybody. It just doesn't logically follow. You say that is it possible? Sure. No, I think it's impossible. I think knowing what we know about science and reproduction, you need genetic material from both a male and a female species when you are a human. Yeah, there are some species that don't need both genetic material for both sexes. In our case, we do. And of course, I plan on being eviscerated in the comments because maybe I'm leaving something out, right? But let's just cut me some slack here. Generally speaking, male, female, they have sex, they make another baby, right? So that's what happens. I consider it impossible that anything that happened as far as Jesus's birth actually took place the way the Bible said it does. I think you present a very interesting point of view, but I don't think that many Christians would take to the idea that science has uncovered that Jesus is actually an exact clone of his mother. So that while I could colloquially say, hey, you know what? Jesus is actually a clone and was therefore female. I don't think that would go over well, and probably wouldn't move the needle as far as getting people to rethink what it is that they think, and that's really what my goal here is. Kelley, what do you have to say about that?
I just have one thing, one sentence to sum this all up. If this imaginary supreme being could magically impregnate a human female, why couldn't he just magically make the gender any gender he wanted?
Yeah, good point.
The whole point doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So,
and if he made Adam out of sand, why did he need to impregnate a female, a young female, arguably a teenager, against her will? Right? Why did that have to happen? So, that's basically it. So yeah, we are going to. We're going to move on. I appreciate it, Nate. I appreciate you calling in. I really appreciate the point of view that you've offered us. But you know what? I have another caller on the line, and I am going to take this call because my sister is calling. Everybody, why is my sister calling me? She has my phone number. But anyway, I'm going to take her call, and this better be good because I, unlike some of these other callers, have the ability to not talk to you at family gatherings if you piss me off. What's going on, Karen from New York?
Hi, Jimmy. Hi, Kelley. I was
Hi.
calling to share. I appreciate the show. I'm enjoying it very much. And I think that you and I might have not have such different ideologies as you believe. So I wanted to just put mine out there and see what your thoughts were on it.
Yeah, of course. And, before you do that, I just want to say that, Karen grew up in the same church that I did. When I was being confirmed as a Lutheran, she was my, I guess, religious sponsor, if you will. But,
Yep.
I am thrilled that you call and you're offering your support. It really means a lot to me. And you can tell why when I was a Christian, or you could see why, Kelley, and all the viewers out there, all the listeners, that this is why I chose this person. Always supportive. Didn't matter what I was going through in life. I could always turn to her. So here we go. Lay it on us.
Interestingly, similar to the previous caller, I believe it was Nate, I don't believe in any or all of the writings of the Bible. They seem outlandish, literally unbelievable. And I think it's like suspicious. Like, no, what's the word I want? I forget the word. Like when you break a mirror, you know what I'm saying?
Superstitious?
Superstitious.
Yeah, superstitious, yes. And I think it's, to lead your life according to that is not something I'm comfortable doing. Particularly, I feel like any religion or group that would ask you to oppress other groups or cast out family members who don't believe as you, that doesn't feel very religious or Christian, if you will. And interestingly, some of the most unchristian-like people that I've met in my life are the ones who claim to be the most astute, closest to God Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I am going to kick this to my co-host first.
I agree. A lot of the people whose ideology I do not agree with the most, and who claim to be very good Christians, I don't agree with their ideology in a lot of ways. However, there is a lot in the Bible that makes people think that the way they are thinking is justified. And this goes back to, I don't know if you were around for our first call today that talked about what was rational and what was reasonable. Oh, that was the second call. Sorry. What was rational and what was reasonable, because you can read the Bible and rationalize all kinds of bad things out of it. There's all kinds of bad things you don't even have to rationalize that are in it, especially in the Old Testament. And I know a lot of Christians will go, oh, but that's the Old Testament. We don't have to pay attention to that, but that's going to rule out you don't have to pay attention to the 10 Commandments, right? And Jesus didn't say that he came to change the law, but to fulfill it. So if Jesus didn't distinctly change that particular thing about the religion, the old standard should still apply. And I think that's what Jesus meant when he said that. So I don't see any incongruity with bad behavior and being a devout Christian, because they're kind of walk hand in hand in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying all Christians are like that. I'm just saying if you read the Bible word for word and follow it, it would produce a lot of bad behavior. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, I think that if we did a majority of the things that the Bible commands us to do, we'd probably end up in prison or maybe worse. I like to challenge people and say, hey, can I pick out just one verse of my own choosing to read to your children? And the answer is usually no. And it's a good thing. And I probably wouldn't do that anyway. But I don't want to digress too much. The point is, the Bible is full of awful things. Are there some good things in there? There certainly are, right? There are good messages in there. I feel like do unto others is like the best thing that maybe came out of the Bible. And I don't even know if I'm quoting that correctly, right? But the point is, there is an understanding that we should treat people well. And my point is, well, why do we need the Bible to do that? Why do we have to, I don't know, give money, give credence to something that can't be proven, but also tells people to do such atrocious things? And so that's kind of where my activism comes from. And I appreciate that you have kind of, I don't want to say grown, because I don't think that, you were ever in all the years that I've known you, ever somebody that needed to really do any growing in this area, but to recognize that you don't accept some of the things that you were told is, I think, a huge step in the right direction to just understanding the difference between right and wrong without having this kind of, pistol held to you. If this theoretical pistol that the Bible is, do this or else you'll burn in hell. I don't need that pistol. I just feel like I can do good things. But for you to say, well, I think we actually, believe more similarly than you might think. Well, I think that's true. The difference is, though, I don't believe at all in the divinity of the Bible whatsoever. I don't believe that there is something outside of this earth. And that's a hard thing for me to say, especially to my family, because I want to see you guys again someday. But I also want you to accept me, and I know that you do. But I have family members that are incredibly devout. And for me to speak up and be who I am is offensive. And I don't want to be offensive, but I just can't hold it in. And so I think you've seen lately that I've been a little bit more vocal about my involvement with the ACA. And I've been posting a little bit more openly on my social media that I'm doing shows and that I want to engage with people. And that's just because, look, my intent is to not hurt people's feelings or push them away. But at the same time, I need to do what's right for me. I don't know, Karen, we've both kind of gone on our tangents, Kelley and I. What do you have to say so far?
I love it. I'm super proud of you. And I appreciate your honesty and your intelligence and willing to educate people on something that's really important to you.
That is so awesome, Karen. That's incredible. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
If you were here, I would give you a big hug.
I am certainly lucky to have you, and I love you, and thank you so much for calling us. And hey, you're welcome to call in any other time. And I think you can see that we're not mean to people, right? I'm not going to be mean to my own sister, but instead I'm going to treat every other caller like my own sister. And that's not to say that my sister and I haven't argued before, because we have, but we could still at the end of the day walk away, respecting each other and treating each other well. So Karen, thank you very much. I hope you have a great day.
You too. Enjoy. Thanks again. Love you.
All right. Love you. Bye.
That was so awesome.
Bye.
Yeah. That's great. It's great to have that support. That brings us to the end of our show. I mean, we are, we've been on for a while.
That was amazing.
Yeah. That was
so quick.
That was a wonderful show. And you know what? Like, dude, you and I can just sit and talk. And I love that too. I love that we have this forum that we can just exchange ideas. And even if people don't call us, maybe they learn something from us, maybe they, they walk away and say, man, I'm glad I listened to that banter for a while. I don't know. What do you think?
I had a blast today. I could keep on going. You know what? We can go a little bit longer on the Discord after show.
Yep. We are going to do a Discord after show, but first, before we part, we have another super chat. And a super chat with a very important message. And I'm glad that this person spoke up. So I'm going to do this one because I think this is in reference to something that I was saying. But Some Kind of Dickie, $5. Thank you very much. Some Kind of Dickie says, regardless of biology or magic, if Jesus identified as a male, then Jesus was male. End of story, whether the story is fact or fiction. And I'll tell you what, that right there speaks to the idea that there is very much a difference between gender and sex. And the way that we're born and the way that we want to identify and the way that we want to be accepted. And you know what? We should all be accepted the way that we identify, if that makes any sense. And so I really appreciate that super chat. Thank you so much for getting back to me. Oh, you know what?
Leave it to a math teacher to put the facts out for us. Huh?
Yeah. Oh, I missed a couple. I can't do that. I can't do that. We've got one from Miranda Rensberger. You know what? Special shout out to Miranda. Miranda's with us every week, every show. Sends $5, says, why is it so hard to understand the difference between claims and evidence? You know what? I'm not sure. I can't speak to why people have such, a hard time, but I think it has a lot to do with their upbringing and kind of this indoctrinated, cultural identity. And sometimes it just takes repetition to get through that. So another call, or excuse me, another super chat from Alan Ferguson. Wow, sends $10. Very enjoyable show. Jimmy and Kelley, thanks much.
Thank
You
you,
are
Alan.
quite welcome. You're quite welcome. And I had a lot of fun today. Remember, everybody, we have a prompt for this week. Why did Jimmy Jr. make this face? And yeah, woo, man, honestly, I make that face a lot, so I couldn't even answer that question. But we're looking forward to reading off the top 3 answers for next week. Reply in the show comments. And right now is the time where we send out our love rings. So let's send those out, right? Remember, everybody, we're going to the Atheist Community Discord after the show, so join us there. And if you don't believe, well, this is your community, and we appreciate you being here. But if you do believe, we don't hate you.
We just don't agree. And Ethan Hawke, or William Hawke, is the winner of our Bible. So get a hold of me, William.
All right. Congratulations. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
We want the truth, so watch Truth Wanted live Friday at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTW and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/calltw.